Hello and welcome back to Up the Villa. Today's our opposition preview for RB Leipzig v Aston Villa in the Champions League. And I'm delighted to be joined by Justin Croser from RBL Talk. How you doing, mate?
Very good, thank you, Luke. It's currently 7:15 a.m. at time of recording. I've had about 4 hours sleep, but hey, this is the life of a podcaster and also working a day-to-day job. So glad to be
You
here.
are a proper professional, so thank you. So everybody make sure you are hitting the subscribe button. Let's try and have around 700 likes on this episode and comment your thoughts in the comment section down below. So Justin, RB Leipzig, talk to me about your history, some of the honours, because as a football club, you're a fairly newish football club. You know, a lot of football clubs have been going since 1874, etc., and a long time, but yours is fairly new. So just talk to me about the history.
Yeah, so the club founded in 2009, and we basically started. How it happened basically was owners Red Bull. They decided to buy a club in the Oberliga, which is the fifth division of the German football tier, for around about €350. They brought the rights to the club, the stadium, everything, and that club being SSV Markenstadt. So they basically were foundation of a club that had already existed with a history, and they basically built their product and football club from that. As they got through the upper leagues, going into the fourth division, the third division, so the Regionalliga and three Liga, and as we started getting through, we couldn't actually be called Red Bull Leipzig. So that's why the club is called Rasenballsport Leipzig, which is still abbreviated as RB Leipzig. Everyone just knows it as Red Bull Leipzig. So it's also illegal for the clubs to have any branding or anything like that on their logo. There was some mock logos with like the Red Bull logo basically on it, but the DFB or the DFL, I can't remember which one, the governing body anyway, they turned around and basically said that you can't do that. So that's why they've got the current logo, which is still very similar with the two balls on the outside, but the soccer ball on the middle. And they've been okay and allowed to use that ever since. And so that's why we get a lot of stick, which I'm pretty sure you're going to ask me about later on, from a lot of the traditional football clubs in Germany, that we're basically a construct to sell energy drinks. But I would strongly disagree.
Well, I'm going to ask you about it right now, actually. So, from a football fan from afar, I always hear about German clubs really disliking you. So, why is that then?
Well, look, this is why. Do you want the short answer or do you want the long answer?
Go for it. Tell us all about you.
About myself or about why the club is hated so much?
That why it's hated so much.
Okay, so basically, the team is looked at as a construct to sell energy drinks, as I stated. They feel that Red Bull has come in and they've cleared 50-1. For people that don't know what 50-1 is basically that they frown upon ownership of companies that own the clubs. So we do have a couple of teams that are a little bit different to this. So that being Bayer Leverkusen owned by Pharmaceuticals, VfL Wolfsburg owned by Volkswagen, I do believe. But they were originally company teams. So the companies in Germany, which are German companies, they originally started with their employers, basically, I should say employees, as the rightful owners. And then because of so long, it does say that the parent club can take ownership of that. So that's basically what they did, and which is perfectly fine in German football. In terms of us, as I stated, we basically brought the rights to another team. We basically grabbed all their stuff, picked them up, and slapped all the Red Bull, paraphernalia, I guess you could probably say, from a German's perspective, all over the top of that. And basically, they see us as a construct to sell the drinks. We're a plastic club. They didn't actually just have a foundation of anything besides buying a club. And then as later on, as we've come through the ranks, in our first Bundesliga season, we actually were runners up to Bayern Munich, second in that in retrospect, we probably even could have won the Bundesliga that season when we first got into it. And they just see us as a threat to everything that they believe in and what they stand in and everything like that. Coming from European, or myself, I come from Australia. It's not really something that's unheard of club ownership from like a mogul or a company or anything like that. And for me, I see it as a complete opposite. Yes, they've obviously heavy marketing of Red Bull and their products with our teams, but for me, there was really no teams in East Germany that are very big and successful or anything like that. And that's where I see RB Leipzig to fill that hole, is something, an identity for all the people going through the youth systems or anyone who wants to play football over in East Germany. That Leipzig is a place to a good attacking style football and a good youth facilities. Kotterweg is quite known for its renowned facilities, and that's pretty much the nutshell of it. The reason why everyone seems to hate us.
And do you have a connection with the other teams that are called Red Bull? Is the one called Salzburg?
Yeah, so you've got Salzburg, it's over in Austria. You've got, I think it's Bragantino, which is over in Brazil. Red Bull New York, or the New York Red Bulls over in America over there. So yeah, there is a connection there. Because Red Bull actually owns all of those teams outright. I do believe. Where with us, it's a little bit different because there is still that 50-1 rule. So there is still supposed to be a membership base, and Red Bull haven't exactly gotten rid of that completely. What they've done is basically they have, say, I'll put it in a layman's terms as easily definable as possible. They basically got a board, let's say of 8 voting members. We'll just say, I'll just throw out a number there. I'm not too exactly sure off the top of my head how many voting members, but they're the ones that basically do all the decision making. So, you would say that Jurgen Klopp, who's coming in January with his director role, he'll be there. Marcel Schaffer will be there, and everyone of the Red Bull CEOs and higher ups, directors of footballs, and all those type of things. And then I do believe that Marco Rose was the transitional. He didn't have a voting say, but he was heavily regarded and for his input on basically any club decisions that get made. I do believe now that Jurgen Klopp's role will sort of be that transition between Marco Rose and the Red Bull CEOs. So the paying members and fans over in Leipzig don't actually get a say in how the club is run, so that they can't basically vote on the club general meetings or anything like that, like all other clubs can over in Germany. Basically, if they want to show their way of not liking something, they basically have to do protests or stop going to games and things like that.
Yeah, I think you've seen my notes, because my next question's about Jurgen Klopp. So what role is Klopp gonna have, and what has sort of been sold to you as like the reason why he's doing this new position?
Yeah, so it's a little bit interesting to see what's going to happen with Jurgen Klopp and his role, because it hasn't really, transitioned yet. So it doesn't actually start until January 2025. So the start next year. Still, little under a month now. But it's basically going to be like, as one of my listeners of the show has put it, sort of Ralph Ragnick 2.0. So basically, he's going to be put there to oversee the youth development, oversee players that are good for our style of football and how we play. By that meaning is helping scouts and also picking players from that perspective. And is basically a managerial role, but behind the scenes. So using all of his vast experience that he's had over his footballing career, both as a player and as a manager, and using all that knowledge of getting the best players and best opportunities for people to come into the Red Bull system at Leipzig.
It's a bit of a coup to get him, really, isn't it? I mean, coming out of, Borussia Dortmund and doing well there, and doing fantastic at Liverpool, to get him as that main guy, it must be pretty special to get someone like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It just shows that the club is still quite young. That we're going in the right direction of being able to start getting world-renowned managers and personnel coming into into the Red Bull system and at Leipzig, and I will put it this way, that the Dortmund and the Mainz fans and supporters there were not happy whatsoever. There was banners that when we played against Mainz in the Bundesliga, basically, have you forgotten where you came from, and things like that, as a short translation of basically what it was. And a lot of teams do normally boycott us anyway by not going to games, or they do things to their traveling supporters, which are, you could say, questionable over there during Bundesliga fixtures. But I sort of see it, depending on if you don't go over the line, it's all in good fun.
So how did you become a fan?
Yeah, so my family is actually from Germany, both from Saxony and Holstein. So Leipzig is where the most of my family are from, which is Saxony, which is the governing city, I guess you could say, and Leipzig is the town. And over there in Holstein Kiel, which who we're playing, just before that, when we play you guys in the Bundesliga as well. So it's sort of like a little bit of family clash, I guess you could say. My family came from over there in Germany and migrated to Australia, and that's where I was born and raised, here in Australia. So it's not every day that you see a international RB Leipzig fan, and it's very rare that I even see them, especially in the country of where I live in Australia. I see Dortmund and Mainz and Cologne and Bayern Munich, unfortunately, and other teams, but never Leipzig.
So let's talk about Leipzig this season, and your manager especially as well. So what sort of tactics do you play? What's your brand of football, and why? When I look at you and I look at the Champions League table and I see you with 0 points, I'm thinking, what's going on there? And I think in the Bundesliga, I'm used to seeing you, near the top a little bit. So what's going on this season?
Well, anyone that's been following RB Leipzig for a few seasons since Marco Rose's tenure would know that he's actually the best manager that we've had statistically, and also technically in terms of cups as well, as he's now won the Super Cup, as well as, I do believe, the DFB Pokal. So he's won a couple of trophies now. He's also got the most points per game for us. And then any other manager that eclipses, Ralf Rangnick, Julian Nagelsmann, previous cup winner Domenico Tedesco as well. He's a native born as well, Marco Rose. So most of all the locals that love him. I don't know of any local that doesn't love him in any sense of the form, although we haven't been loving our recent results. So we've only just come off of a 6-game losing streak. We didn't win a single game in November, I do believe. So it was just pretty tough. It was one of the worst, actually it was the worst run of poor form that we've had, both as a club and also under the tenure as Marco Rose in the Bundesliga. So, last season we had a lot of inconsistency issues as well. We started the season slightly having them, that we did actually beat by Leverkusen and ended there. I think it was over 400 and something days undefeated across all competitions and in the Bundesliga. And so we are a team that can certainly, get the job done and get points. I haven't looked at the table as of the time of recording this, but I know we've got the most clean sheets in the competition, and we did at least have the best defense record in the competition as well, which says a lot because we haven't really been scoring a lot of goals. With both Benjamin Sesko and Luis Openda, who came in last season, both playing very well at the end of last season, especially, but they haven't really hit their stride yet as of late for us at the moment. But how we normally play is it's like a Red Bull philosophy. Red Bull pretty much puts this across all their teams, or at the very least they do with RB Leipzig, which is known as the premier club or the top club out of the Red Bull franchise-owned teams. The next one would be Red Bull Salzburg, which there's a lot of, I guess you could say, back and forth of players and personnel. We've just had Ruven Schroeder, who was a sporting director here at Leipzig, move over there. But the company themselves emphasizes pretty much development of young talents, and we play a very proactive, high-pressing, counter-attacking style of football. We try and play vertical or forward more so than anything. And we like to score and attack as quickly as possible. So we're known for our counter-attacking play, fast breaks, and the gegen pressing of the team, which Liverpool you would have seen a lot of in the in the Premier League over there with Klopp, basically at 2-1 with the ball carrier and trying to win the ball back in high positions and getting a ball upfield quickly, catching out the defense. So in a nutshell, that's how we've been playing pretty much since the foundation, and as most Red Bull clubs do.
Love it. Your knowledge is fantastic. Absolutely love it. So your players then, you've already mentioned on the show that I did with you that XAVI SIMONS might not be playing, but Sesko, Openda, Villa fans will be having a look at Gertrude because we were crying out for a right back in the summer, and he was the one that we were going to try and go for, and you guys signed him and we didn't. So it would be interesting to see how he plays. Who are the players that really stand out for you then? Who are your best players? Who should Villa be watching out for?
Yeah, so you've pretty much hit the nail on the head. If you're going to go by what the players most known for, I guess you could say, like off the top of your head, if you go RB Leipzig right now, who are the players that you think of? And there's pretty much three there. I do believe it was three, but we also got other players as well. So I don't know if you mentioned Lewis Openda. I've got a bit of a short-term memory at the moment, but him and Benjamin Sesko, they're basically the strike partnership that we normally have up front. I like to say that if we can keep those guys for 3 to 5 years, that's like a formidable duo that is capable of winning trophies and getting things done at RB Leipzig. But I'm gonna give you a couple of plays that you wouldn't have heard of, and you're more than happy to ask me about any players, including Gertrude as well. But Xavier Schlager is coming back from a recent injury with an ACL injury. He's very important in the central of midfield, along with Amadou Haidara. They're both players that absolutely work their butts off basically all the time, and they're always big part of keeping up the pressure, distributing the ball. Christoph Baumgartner flies under the radar as well a little bit. He can play as a striker or as an attacking midfielder, and he plays quite well for Austria. Young Antonio Nusa, the Norwegian, he's actually really come to the fore lately with XAVI SIMONS out injured, as XAVI SIMONS was our mostly creative player and the creative spark, and also ability to draw a player from the defense to open up the space for other players. So Nusa actually can provide that role as well, and I do believe he's only 19 years old, so the ceiling is quite high for that kid. And not only that, my personal favourite is actually Willy Orban. So he's been the captain at the club for quite a while. He's basically the general of defence, leads from the front. He was actually the player that scored the most goals, funny enough, as a centre-back. So he scored the most goals in the month of November against all of our whole entire squad, which says a lot because we've got, Openda, Sesko, and, I know XAVI was out injured, but we've got still a lot of, goal threat there as well. And we do have young Martin van der Voort as well in goal. For people that like to play, I think it's Football Club now or FIFA Manager or anything like that. He's a young Belgian player touted basically as the replacement or successor, I should say, for the Red Devils, the Belgian Red Devils, that is, to be out Courtois.
Yeah, really good. So talk to me a little bit about Gertrude then. How's he doing? Because we were crying out for a right back and we didn't sign one, and some of our problems this season have probably come from not having the correct sort of personnel at right back. So have you been impressed with him?
Yes, to put it short. So I was impressed when he first came. I mean, I haven't been impressed lately with the poor run of form, but he's not the only player that has been down in form. So, I'm going to tout it as, basically the whole team has been poor. So, when you're losing 6 in a row, it's pretty hard to be impressed by a losing side. And, there's not very many, good players or players that are impressing in that type of run of form. But he really shows a lot of still promise. He's still finding his way a little bit here in our system. But he can pass the ball quite well. He's able to push up the pitch. He works well. The only thing I will say is that I've been a little bit disappointed with sort of his attitude on the pitch a little bit. So if he's been caught out, there's been a couple of times where he's been, I wouldn't say the sole culprit, but he's been a reason why that we've conceded a goal, as you do yourself, that I do a tactical analysis of goals conceded and things like that. So Gertrude seems to flap his arms around and sort of look at other players and pretty much trying to shift the blame a little bit, and he's made a couple of mistakes. He's only human, and he'll get that in time as he learns, where he should be on the pitch and how high is too far up the pitch and things like that. But as a defender, both in his ability to attack and also his defensive acumen, I've been quite impressed with his technical abilities.
It's going to be interesting to see how he plays against us. So Champions League format then. We haven't been in it for a very long time, and I'm really liking it. I don't know whether it's because we're doing quite good, but I actually quite like the whole format of it. One thing that I find a bit strange is that when I'm talking to you, you've played virtually different games to what we have, which feels a little bit strange to sort of gauge where you are. And we've played Juventus, you have as well. We drew 0-0. So as a fan who's been in the Champions League before, are you liking it or not?
As in the new format, or?
Yeah, I mean, you can't be liking it that much because you haven't won a game, but how are you liking the format?
Look, it's a little questionable. I mean, it's got its pluses and negatives. I mean, so did the old format that everyone, was used to. And, now basically you see, teams that would probably never really get a chance to get into the Champions League. And I'm not meaning Aston Villa. I'm meaning teams like maybe Sturm Graz. They could possibly get up there more regularly, even though they won the Austrian title, I do believe, last season. And other teams going in and their ability to get higher up, and instead of just being knocked out straight after the group stage the group stage, basically, they actually have a chance of progressing further into the competition. So, there's that. And then, I'm not really liking the whole layout, as in, like, I feel that with 36 teams, and then you've got the fixtures coming in thick and fast, I think the players are starting to get a little bit overworked a tad. I mean, for someone in the Bundesliga, we've only got 3 real competitions. So we've got the Bundesliga, we've got the DFB Pokal, and then we've got European competition if you're finishing top 6 in the Bundesliga. So for us, it's Champions League. Where yourself in England, I do believe that it is the Premier League, the FA Cup, and then the English Cup, and and then you've got Europe as well. So you've got like 4 or 5 competitions or something like that. So that it'll be very hard on the players physically, and also a little bit mentally as well. Having to get fit, within a couple of days possibly to play again. So there's that side of things. But and then people would argue that they're on good money and things like that, and who really cares, I guess you could say. But at the end of the day, that you want to see your players fit and healthy and not overworked or stressed. And I will say that it is good with this new format that you get to see fixtures that really haven't happened. For instance, we've never played against each other in a professional manner, so to speak, or any European competition. So there's times like that where you get to play teams that you may not really get drawn against, and that's always good.
Yeah, and the weird thing is as well, we go into like next year and we've still got 2 games to play, which is mental in itself. Normally it's sort of finished in December, and then you go straight to that sort of like knockout phase. So what are your thoughts on Aston Villa? Have you watched much of us under Unai Emery, or do you just sort of know about our players?
Yeah, so I haven't really watched a whole lot I'll be truthful. So I haven't watched a whole lot of Aston Villa play themselves, but I have seen Unai Emery play through his teams, especially his time at Villarreal, where they're really known as like a team that sort of it comes from nothing. So he's not able to overspend and just get any player that he wants or anything like that. So I would take it that at Aston Villa, not also being I guess you could say overly wealthy club that could just have random 100 billion pound or something just to throw out on a player if they feel like it. To get whatever. So he's got to work with what he has. There's some limitations there. And, tactically speaking, I've always been quite impressed with, Emery. Even I do believe he was a manager at Arsenal as well at one point in his career. So, it's not uncommon for him to, be managing in the Premier League over there before he came with Aston Villa. So there's a couple of players that I'm really looking forward to seeing I've seen a little bit on the here in Australia. It's Optus Sport that has the rights to the Premier League, so I will normally watch Goal Rush, is what it's called, on during the weeks and things like that. And I've been impressed with a couple of players, Ollie Watkins, obviously, and Morgan Rogers as well, who, for myself on my podcast, I did put his player watch for this fixture as, he sort of reminds me of a Xavi Simons like player in the fact that he's young, he's got lots of talent. The ceiling's only, not high, it's very high. You can go as far as he wants. He's got all the fundamentals of being a really, really great player. And so, there's a couple of plays that I'd be wary just besides those two. And I'm more so worried about you guys on the transition and counter attack, because if you guys do play a high pressing or high possession game, and we just want to sit back on that, that's pretty much where we've come undone throughout our games this season.
So talk to me then about the game. What can Villa expect, playing you at your stadium? Is it hostile? What can we expect on that front? And how do you expect the game to pan out? Because I spoke to you about it on your show that, you haven't got a point yet. So it feels like this is the time that you guys have sort of got to get probably an unbeaten run now in the next 3 games. So how do you think you'll approach it?
Yeah, so I'll start with the atmosphere. It's always a great atmosphere. You're not going to get anything hostile or anything like that, so to speak. So, any traveling fans over there, like very welcoming, not too bad over there in that sense. And, they're pretty lax and things like that. So you're not going to get any sort of hostility, as a Aston Villa fan going over, being in the stadium or anything like that. Look, we're passionate people, so you may a little bit during the fixture itself, but then once those 90 minutes finish up, you'll be fine on that front. I was hoping that we throw caution to the wind, basically. It's now or never if we're going to start getting any points. We've just recently finished our 6-game losing streak with a win in the DFB Pokal Cup. So I'm hoping we can build upon that as we have been playing better in the domestic cup and also the Champions League than we have in the Bundesliga as of late. So I'm hoping that we just take everything straight at you guys. I mean, Aston Villa is going to be no slouch. It's not going to be an easy game or just that's 3 points right there. That's for certain. So we're going to have to earn it. We're going to have to work for it. But if all goes well, we should hopefully be starting our Champions League campaign finally with some points.
Well, Justin, it's been a pleasure chatting to you. I mean, your knowledge on Leipzig is incredible, and I imagine a lot of Villa fans have really learnt a lot talking to you. So it's been a pleasure. Hopefully we can chat sometime in the near future if we ever come up against each other again. I'll put your channel in the title of this video. Villa fans, go and check out Justin's content because it's absolutely fantastic. So cheers for coming on, mate. It's been brilliant.
Yeah, if anyone wants to ever ask me about anything about RB Leipzig, just more than welcome to hit me up over on the podcast channels. And it's been an absolute pleasure coming on the show.
Thank you, mate.